Burnett, Nicholson are present. Voorhees excused. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Burnett, second by Johnson. Under discussion, hear none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion
Second.
by Burnett, second by Johnson. Under discussion, hear none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Regular business. Where are we? Consideration of possible action on request of Pete's Annex LLC entering an agreement for parking division to manage and enforce parking in the BMO Harris Bank Building parking lot located in the block surrounded by Broadway, West Walnut, Hubbard, Pearl. It's held over from October 29. Director Grenier.
We brought this forward a couple of months ago. Pete Annex LLC approached the city and asked us if we would be interested in managing that lot on their behalf. So we drafted an agreement and brought that agreement forward to the Improvement Service Committee. At the meeting in October, the committee asked us to go back and continue negotiations with Pete's Garage LLC, or Pete's Annex LLC, specifically to discuss increasing the amount of revenue that the city would be deriving from that management agreement to include not only covering costs, which was part of the original agreement, but to see if we could get some sort of a cost share on the profits being made out of that lot. So I think at this time I want to turn it over to Operations Director and Parking Manager Chris Purlott, who has been handling those negotiations on behalf of the city.
Yeah, we do have some guests here from the LLC partners. And if you remember, we proposed the draft agreement just for costs for parking division to manage the lot. And then there was discussion about cost plus, and there was some discussion at the membership, at the ownership level, and they wanted to come back and discuss that. We did not, if you recall, I'm not trying to put figures or anything at all. We didn't propose that originally, as you know, in the agreement, but there was discussion about, putting a little bit of capital into it for the parking division perpetuation, for system maintenance and future issues. And I believe that's the issue of discussion right now. I would like to, have the owners, the LLC operators, discuss it a little bit with the group here.
Make a motion. Floor for interested parties.
Motion by Johnson to open up the floor for interested parties, second by Burnett. Under discussion here, none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Okay, the floor is now open. Just raise your hand, I'll address you one at a time. State your name and address for the record, and we'll listen to what you have. Yes, sir.
Kurt Suizo, 142 North Broadway, owner of Pete's Garage and also partner in Pete's Annex. So it's, yeah, that's correct. When the city had asked us to discuss city management of the lot in order to come up with a better parking solution for the Broadway district, we thought that would be a reasonable option. Right now, a lot, for the entire time that we've owned the parking lot, which is over, what, a year now? Okay, it's my partner, Matt Thompson, also partner in Pete's Annex. It's been used as a de facto municipal lot, so as we've struggled with ways to try to get around that, whether it's putting parking gates or meters and towing and stuff like that. So to have the city manage it was a reasonable option, and so we've got, we are responsible for the startup costs, including installation of meters. We're also responsible for carrying costs of the lot in terms of maintenance, insurance, taxes, things like that. So with that being considered, we don't understand where the extra 20% comes from, and we don't feel that that factors into the carrying costs of the property itself. So to pay the city for the work that's being done, that's fine, but to give 20% part of the proceeds, to me, doesn't make sense.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody else? One more time, anybody else? Okay, motion by Burnett to close the floor.
Second.
Second by Johnson, under discussion. Hear none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Steve, do you have any more input, or?
I do not. Again, just the gist of what Mr. Suiso has indicated is, we have discussed the option that the committee asked us to, relative to cost plus, and as you heard, they've expressed no interest in that. They would prefer to go forward with the original draft agreement that we had provided to you back in October.
Okay. And that's just basically break even.
Correct.
Great costs.
And who owns it?
They actually own the lot. We would manage it on their behalf.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess I understand why, but.
Have we determined what
Alderman
that,
Johnson?
have we determined what that cost is? I've noticed in the agreement, it's still listed as just highlighted XXX.
Yeah, we shared some, I ran numbers, based on our knowledge at $2018, and it's just the operating cost from the parking divisions side is, there's gonna be variables depending on, if we would not have no snow during the winter, it's a lot less expensive, but we're in Wisconsin, but that can be variable. But right in the neighborhood of just under $20,000 a year.
Okay.
And that covers, snow removal, sweeping, collecting parking meter revenue, restriping the lot, you gotta mark the stalls, and when they fade, you gotta repaint them. Landscape maintenance, litter control, just miscellaneous, you gotta pay for the printing parking passes or hang tags that people are gonna be renting. And then back office administration for collections, and of course enforcement, for violations if it's 2-hour parking or metered parking, or checking for passes that people are legitimately able to park in their lot. So it's all encompassing. But the biggest cost by far is typical for Wisconsin estimated, is the snow removal, and that can vary from winter to winter.
Is it identified in this agreement, Chris? In the event that there is a parking violation, we are monitoring that lot, correct?
Enforcement is part of the package, the proposal.
Okay, and if a fine is issued, where does that revenue go?
Citation revenue stays with the city.
Okay, and then, okay,
Yeah, Clause 8 talks about enforcing parking restrictions.
got it. Okay, thank you. So essentially what we're looking at is, we've factored in all of our costs. We actually have the opportunity to generate revenue here off of citations.
How much revenue off of a citation, if there are any?
It's hard to say, it depends on, this is an unknown that we've never enforced in this lot before because it's private property.
And if
Now
there's
we're
no
being
citations, then what's a revenue?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, if there are no citations, what's our revenue?
Zero.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I see what you're saying.
Well, it's like looking in a crystal ball.
Correct.
How do you predict that?
Yes.
If everybody obeys the law,
The
there's no
unfortunate
revenue.
reality is, all my 28 years as parking manager, I've never had any location where I could say, oh, everyone is angelic parkers. There's going to be violations that will be enforced. Of course, I'm rubbing my crystal ball, but it's based on a lot of years of experience.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
Johnson?
just add, I've obviously been in a lot of communication with the owners, I've been in communication with Chris on this. There are a lot of ways that I think the city can look at this and constitute value. One of them is certainly revenue, but I think the other one is, does it offer a public service that's needed? And quite frankly, down in this area, which happens to be in my district, I can tell you that, there is a shortage of parking stalls. And I think what's significant about this arrangement is that it would add, I believe, up to 180 stalls, is that correct? 180 stalls roughly, whatever the number is, right?
Yeah,
Doesn't really
it's
matter.
over
It's
100,
it's taking,
something.
it's taking stalls right now that are restricted to private use, and it's making them available for public use. And I think, to me, that's the most significant thing here, and it eases some of that parking congestion that currently exists down in that particular part of town. So I would support this for that reason. It provided that, the city can remain cost neutral on this, which it sounds like you've come up with that number, you've got formulas that back that.
Yes.
Okay, just for clarification, you support what was proposed last month?
Correct. I support, yeah,
Okay.
with the monthly, it's based on a monthly fee, right? That's what you would charge?
Yeah, we have,
Well, we've got it figured out on an annual basis, so what
I
I've
mean,
done
how would
is.
the invoice would be, to be an administrative issue, whether it be quarterly, annually, that's just.
Right, what I've got is I've rewritten clause 11, striking for the period of September 1 through December 31, 2018. So it now reads, "The owner shall pay to the city $20,000 a year for services as described herein. Any partial years shall be billed on a prorated basis." So then we have the flexibility to negotiate with the owners. If they want to be billed monthly, we can bill them monthly. If they want to be billed quarterly, we can bill quarterly. If they want to be billed annually, we can do that as well.
And that's the parking division's general rule of thumb with larger parking patrons. We just work it out with them how their financial stuff works, just to keep everything moving.
I guess that in, I would move to approve.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to approve. Okay, how would you, the agreement, Steve, what?
The agreement as presented at the October 19th, 2019.
All right, there's a motion by Johnson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Burnett, under discussion.
Yes,
Alderman Burnett?
The agreement has a date of September of 2018, so would that be adjusted to
Yeah, that's just
January?
that's the draft that we were working on when we brought it forward to you. So any of those administrative editorial comments will be reflected, brought forward to reflect current conditions.
Okay. Okay, anything else? Alderman Burnett?
No.
Nothing? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Number 2, consideration of possible action on downtown parking study, recommendations, implementation plan. Director Grenier.
Back in 2013, the city hired Desmond Associates to create a parking study for us that took a look at a variety of things. Looked at our current operation mode for parking of various forms within the city of Green Bay. Took a look at some structural issues relative to our structured parking, and then also took a look at some forecasting for the future as far as what parking should be looking like as we move forward. We brought forward that implementation plan that came out of the study in 2014, and there were a number of items that were in that implementation plan that have already been adopted. So in the packet, we have provided you with an updated report from this month that talks about the original implementation plan and identifies which of those items in the original implementation plan have not come forward. And basically what we can boil that down to are 3 items. The first of which is changing the enforcement at the meters to match charge for parking at meters on Monday through Saturday to match the days when we have parking enforcement officers already staffed. Taking a look at the ramps and the Adams Street lot to establish a flat fee for parking on nights and weekends, which currently are at no charge to the parking patron. And the third of which is to reinstall parking meters throughout the Broadway district to become consistent with what's going on in the downtown Green Bay district. Just as a refresher, relative to night and weekend parking, we currently charge for structured parking and in the Adams Street lot, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. So after 6 p.m. on weeknights, and then from 6 p.m. on Friday night until 6 a.m. Monday morning, there is no charge to utilize our structured parking or the Adams Street lot. nor the meters in the downtown area. However, the meters, the lots, and the ramps can't tell the difference between a vehicle that's parking there 10 o'clock on a Saturday night from 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. The same impact to those structures, the same amount of maintenance resulting from those vehicles, the same amount of long-term care that has to go into that structure is present whether that vehicle is there at one time or another. So in effect, what's going on is our parking patrons that utilize those facilities, either through our rental agreements, our monthly rentals, we do have well in excess of 3,000 parking patrons who subscribe with a monthly proximity pass to utilize our facilities, or those transient patrons that come down during the day and utilize hourly parking are subsidizing those who come down on nights and weekends. It would be a more equitable solution to have those night and weekend patrons contribute something toward the long-term maintenance of our parking system. So what we are looking at is sort of a hybrid. By and large, the daytime business parking is a time-based commitment. So you pay for the amount of time you anticipate to use that facility. What we're looking at for nights and weekends, the meters would, if implemented, we would continue to use the meters on a time base because there's really no good way to swap that out. But the ramps and the Adams Street lot would then go to a flat fee. So instead of paying 85 cents an hour or 95 cents an hour for utilization of the ramp, it would be a pay on exit, and what we're proposing is $2 as the flat fee. So you could go in there and park for 14 hours and pay $2, or you could go in there and park for 45 minutes and pay that same $2 on exit. Pay on exit with a flat fee is not something that's unheard of, especially in this area. I believe Appleton's ramps
Right.
they may be a pay on entry,
Yeah,
but
which
it's a
has
flat
been
fee.
working for them, so they went to the pay on exit.
It's a flat fee based system. So again, what we're trying to do is to get those users who are capitalizing on a free system to help pay something towards the ramps, but not make it so burdensome that it would be a major disruption to everyone.
I'd like to add, we're also talking about if you're in there for less than an hour, first hour, it's $2 flat, but if you're in there for less than an hour, it's no charge. Let's see it for people. I'm downtown, it's lunchtime, stop at Subway, and stop at the pizza place, stop at wherever. Or I just gotta run in and do this at Furs and Clothing and Distinction, I gotta pick up something. It's, regular, no real impact for shorter term still, you still get that first hour, no charge.
And we don't have nearly the demand on those facilities on the weekends that we do during the week. So, you will remember, we did away with first hour free during the business day, and that's simply to accommodate the demand and help get that turnover. We don't see that same demand. Typically, the folks who are coming down and utilizing those facilities, nights and weekends, are staying for a much longer period of time. So we have no problem with offering up that first hour free in the ramps and in the Adams Street lot. Again, the last item that we had discussed was relative to the Broadway district. Back in the 90s, the Broadway district was a struggling business district, and they were looking for some assistance in helping them get back on their feet. And one of the things that was brought forward to the Common Council was to eliminate the charge for parking on Broadway. I think everyone would agree that the changes that have occurred over the last 20 years on Broadway have resulted in massive positive changes over there. It's definitely a destination. Very strong, very vibrant business corridor, and one of the biggest complaints that I hear from Broadway area businesses is, as Alder Johnson referred to earlier, a lack of available convenient parking for folks, patrons of those businesses, to get in and utilize the businesses during the day. And what we have observed is one of the primary reasons for that Oftentimes, it's staff who are working at those very businesses that are parking on Broadway, taking the available parking away from patrons of those businesses. By putting the meters back in and putting a 2-hour time limit like we have over on the east side, it not only establishes an equity and a consistency between the east side districts and the west side districts, but also it will encourage turnover of those on-street parking stalls, allowing the patrons the ability to get in there and utilize those stalls because it will continue to turn over the course of the day. We don't make these kind of recommendations without a lot of thought going into it, and I think if nothing else, we have demonstrated over the years, we are as interested as anybody in making sure that businesses here thrive. So we're not gonna make a recommendation that we believe is going to be detrimental. As a matter of fact, we do think that this kind of a change on Broadway is going to become a net positive for those businesses.
Okay, anything else, Steve?
That's it.
Okay, any questions or concerns?
I'll make a motion to open the floor to hear from interested parties.
Motion to open up the floor for interested parties.
Second?
Second by Johnson, our discussion, hear none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. If anybody has any concerns or questions, just please raise your hand, I will address you, state your name and address for the record, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Madeline Vasiliev. I work at 335 North Washington.
Can we get your name again?
Madeline Vasiliev?
Matter of fact, anyone
Oh, okay.
who's asking to speak on this item, we're gonna ask you to fill one of these out. Part of our minutes is actually we transcribe everything that's in these meetings, and in order to make sure that we get your name properly transcribed into the minutes, I have to be able to provide this to the company that does transcription services for us.
Can I fill this out before or after?
You can fill it out after, as long as we get it passed around to everybody who's,
You can just actually give them the meeting.
Okay.
And then just approach us, please, so we can hear you.
Okay, do you want me to stand up then?
Or sit down, at the podium, wherever you want to do, whatever's more comfortable.
Hello and good evening. My name is Madeline Vasiliev, but some of you may recognize my maiden name, Weinstein. I grew up in downtown Green Bay, spending every single day in my family's small business, Lou's Bouterie. I love this town, I love the downtown area, and I'm extremely passionate about it. Lou's Bouterie was a business that was in our family for over 60 years, and for most of those years, it was located in various places right here in downtown. We did have some parking spots in the back lot of our building, but quite a few of our customers would park in front of the building in the metered spaces. My parents always offered the customers change to plug the meters, and the times that the customers received parking tickets, my parents always offered to pay for those as well. That's what small businesses do. They provide excellent customer service even when money is coming out of their own pockets. Every single day we would have customers who would comment about the fact that they had to pay for parking. People don't want to have to pay money to spend money. I currently work at the Haberdasher Limited on Washington Street. It's wonderful working for a small business again, and I love being back in downtown Green Bay. It's great interacting with customers who support local Green Bay businesses, yet every single day I hear the same complaints from customers that I heard 10 and 15 years ago when I was at Lou's Bouterie. It's so annoying to have to pay for parking. Again, we gladly cover the cost of our customers' meters and or tickets. However, this money can just no longer come from the pockets of small business owners. It has to be equaled out somewhere, and this can lead to higher costs of goods and services with businesses, which in turn drives more customers away. That's just the cost of business, people and politicians will say. But the question begs to be asked, does it make sense for small businesses to stay in downtown? We want to be in downtown, we love it here. Every small business down here has invested time, energy, and a hell of a lot of money to bring their business to this area, and what do we see? We see a downtown and a city that doesn't really care. The larger businesses and corporations bring money to downtown, it's the small businesses that bring value. Just because large corporations may get tax breaks or other incentives to come downtown, it doesn't mean the burden of difference should fall on small businesses and their customers. Implementing fees, specifically for nights and weekends, will drive away customers who patronize local stores, restaurants, theater, and other venues. Why would I pay money to park at Coco's when I could simply go to Finn? Why would I purchase tickets to go see a show at the Meyer when I could, while I'll be charged parking when I can go just to see one at the Widener? Who would want to come to a Saturday's farmer's market knowing that they already have to struggle to find parking and now that they'll have to pay for it? Not to mention, how many people will avoid booking an event at Gather knowing that their guests might have to pay? Someone already mentioned that the last thing downtown Green Bay needs is a reason to keep people away. We're already doing a pretty good job at that. While I don't have the answers or solution to lay out, I know that the one proposed tonight might not be the best solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yep. Sir?
Yeah. That's right, I'll speak up. So Kurt Sweezo again. The idea, and I understand the idea that you want the parking spots available for customers and not for employees and staff. So that's the premise. Do we know, is there evidence that those spots are going for employees and staff and not for customers?
Yes.
Okay. And that's just, what's that based on then? What's the study?
We've been chalking tires over there
Yeah.
for years.
So you know the cars are parked there and they're
Absolutely.
just staying there all day
Enforcement.
long? All right.
Absolutely.
Anything else, sir?
Nope.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Christine Hall. I'm the general manager at Hyatt Regency Green Bay, and the KI Convention Center, sorry. Thank you, Tracy. I think free parking on the weekends certainly helps the downtown area. From the perspective of all the great events that have come to the downtown area since I've lived here in the last 4 years, I will tell you that it would certainly hurt the business at the KI. I will tell you that we've already lose business to La Crosse and Stevens Point that has free parking, and charging for parking on the weekends for some of our weekend groups, some of our what we call Smurf business, but which is more of your price-conscious business that comes in on the weekend. Even a $2 fee is going to be substantial for them to have to pay. Some of our social events that we have on the weekends as well, which are local Green Bay patrons coming down for weddings or other social events, it would be the same thing. Having to pay $2 to come to a charity event that's being held at the KI. They could start looking for other venues to come to. So I just think it's not a great decision, even at a $2 fee. It's more of a nuisance fee than it is anything else to put in nights and weekend work.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Jill Munster, 207 North Washington, Furs and Clothing of Distinction. We've been down here for 20 plus years, about 20 at this location. Prior to that, right next door to Bosses. And we have been obviously dealing with this situation all along. We have done what Lou's Bootery has done in all the years, paying for parking tickets and such. We understand the parking situation. We understand we need to pay for parking. Our customers understand they need to pay for parking, as they don't like it, but they do understand it. That being said, what we are finding is that the free parking on the weekends, the free parking after 6 o'clock has been helpful. On the weekends in particular, on Saturdays, even as an employee, I often struggle at 9 o'clock in the morning when I come in, finding a place to park. So when your demand is high, why are you going to raise your price to get these people to park here? Okay, you've already got it filled up, so you're gonna raise your price even more? Okay, I'm not understanding. It's full. So you're gonna say, I'm gonna charge people now? It's already filled up. You can't just say, I'm gonna charge them now. It doesn't make sense to me. So to have these people have to pay when they're already struggling to find a place to park, and as I said, employees included, it's just very, very difficult to understand as a business. My customers have a hard time finding a place to park. So you're gonna scare people away, you're gonna have it empty out because everyone's gonna say, well, I'm not gonna go down there because I can't find a place to park. Well, then guess what? You're gonna have a lot of open parking spots because people aren't going to wanna come, all because you want to charge them $2. Where's that gonna get you in the long run? Nowhere. Secondly, you had pointed out the thing about saying, well, we want these transient people to be contributing. Well, guess what? I contribute. I buy a monthly parking pass, and I'm parking down there on Saturdays. I'm parking down there in the evenings. So I am contributing to that, because I am paying for a monthly parking pass also. So I think there are a lot of people who work down there who are also contributing to that. And, you know, you're saying that they're not, but there are a lot of people who are paying for a monthly parking pass and are contributing to that.
Anything else?
Just as a point of clarification, if you hold a monthly parking pass, that parking pass would be valid.
No, I understand that, but you were saying, you know, we want these people who are coming down on the nights and the weekends to be contributing because they're, you know, they're just taking up that space and they're not contributing because they're only paying, you know, they're not paying. Well, there are a lot of people who are contributing all along.
Correct.
Is what I'm
But
saying.
when I made that comment, I'm speaking specifically towards those who do not hold the parking passes.
And I understand that, but there are a large amount of people who are using those spots on the weekends who are already contributing, is what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else? Go ahead.
Okay.
Just state your name, please.
Sure, Kurt Sweezo. So just getting to the parking meters, specifically on Broadway, that's my area of concern. So if the concern is that you've got people who are parking long-term, and not, you know, freeing up spaces for customers and patrons, I do have a concern that putting in meters is gonna be a problem. So it's gonna increase the cost of entry for the customer coming to our area, and you don't have to pay that in outlying areas and outlying communities outside of Green Bay. Is it possible to just put up a 2-hour parking sign? Maybe those are in already. I don't
They're
know.
already
That
there.
ticket people who are, so we've been ticketing and it's still an issue for
Yep,
the employees, and so you're just finding it's not having an impact
correct.
because people aren't paying the tickets, or they're just taking the tickets and paying them, and it's just,
Oh, it's a combination of both. It shouldn't be a great surprise how many requests we get on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to
Right.
have a ticket voided, because
have a ticket voided.
you need to understand, I work there and I need to have a place to park.
Right. And then, okay. Do you feel that's gonna change with parking meters? How is that gonna change with parking meters?
Again, because the meter becomes a much more visible, recognizable. It's very labor intensive for us to enforce time-limited parking without that type of a application.
Okay.
We literally have to go through and chalk tires, and we have seen just about every permutation of trying to game the system that you can think of, and several that you haven't thought of. Technically, what needs to happen is when a vehicle has expired the allowable time, it has to vacate the zone. So if you look on the east side, the meters all have a number. There's 2 numbers on it. There's a meter number and a zone number that goes along with the Passport app that you can use on your smartphone to pay for parking. You're supposed to leave that zone after 2 hours. We have folks that go out and simply scuff the chalk mark off of the tire. We have folks who will go out before the 2 hours expire, and they have the arrangement, 2 vehicles parked nose to tail with each other, and they simply swap spots. And then 2 hours later, they'll go out and swap them again. And I moved it. The chalk mark is, it's not accomplishing getting turnover in the area so that there's an available spot for a patron to come in to frequent the business. And I do get a lot of complaints from businesses on the east side of the river saying that they're being treated differently than businesses on the west side of the river.
Okay.
So again, as I mentioned, there's an equity aspect to this as
Oh,
well.
I see, right.
Any other question? Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Steve Libert from Glasses News Depot, and my concern is starting to charge for something that was free, night times, weekends, people don't understand that, they don't believe it maybe. But when a person says, what? They're doing what? They're charging? They're gone. Not everybody, but a lot of them say, that's it, I'm done with downtown. And I know it's hard to believe, because you say, well, it's not that big of a deal, but it is a big deal. It's like going into a restaurant maybe and having somebody give you a bad meal that wasn't that great, and you say, that's it, I'll never be back, which is foolish. But that's the way people think, and they don't want to be taken advantage of, and that's really what's happening. And it is an expense to have parking downtown, there's no doubt about that. But in order to do that, in order to have people come downtown and use the downtown area, they have to get some things that, maybe we can't afford looking at it on the outside, but you're gonna have to afford that in order to get people continue to come downtown. And I wonder how many people here have talked to friends of theirs and mentioned something downtown, like maybe maybe down on the deck, well, they got music on the deck tonight. Where's that? Downtown? Oh, I haven't been down there in years. There's nothing down there anymore. And that's a really sad thing to hear, because they left for some reason, and most of the time the reason is parking and charging to park when I can go out to the mall. I wonder what would happen at Bay Park Square, for instance, if all of a sudden they put meters in there for people. I'm sure you'd get a lot of complaints, and it's just because people don't want to pay for parking when they're coming downtown and I know that Stevens Group has a big job to do, because it costs money to have parking ramps and parking places downtown and then not have anybody pay for it. But that's a big item downtown, is to have free parking. Especially, not maybe totally free, but I mean, like we've been having, like the free in the ramp at certain hours. Took a big hit from people when they changed the parking lot across the street on Cherry Street. People don't understand how it works, especially in wintertime. People from out of town say, is that free across the street? They don't understand it, because there's no meters, they have to read it and then they don't understand it. Maybe it's their fault, but they'll say, well, I can eliminate that problem by not coming down here anymore. So we face a lot of problems when it comes to parking.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Tracy Hillesheim. I am Director of Sales and Events at the Hyatt and the KI Convention Center. So a couple of things. With all due respect, one of the comments that was mentioned earlier, well, it's really not going to hurt the short-term business because people are coming in, they're running out. If I run into haberdasher, I'm only going to be there a few minutes. Not that big of a deal. But really, it is a big deal. I will come down, and I live way on the west side, but I'll bring my daughter down, and I'll come to breakfast, and I'll walk around downtown, and we'll go in and we'll buy little trinkets here and there. We won't do it if I have to find $2 to park. It's just, to me, I think you will take away from that additional spend. Yeah, if I'm coming in, I'm not gonna spend over an hour to go to breakfast or go into one store, but I'm sure as heck not gonna go to the next store or the next one or the next one. Because it's free. This is kind of like, oh, I'm going downtown, and it's different, and it's catchy, and it's cute, but not if I have to pay for it. The other thing Christine mentioned was our Smurf business. There is not a doubt that I can tell you, as the Director of Sales, parking comes up with almost every piece of business that we bring into the city. Whether it's, where am I going to park? How much is the parking going to be? Will you comp it for me? Will you give it as a concession to me? It comes up over and over and over. Christine mentioned Stevens Point, and I think she said La Crosse. It's Eau Claire too. Eau Claire is talking about building in a new conference center. The school out there wants it. If you look at the STAR report, you might not know what that is, but it is our record of keeping track of our CompSec here in town, as well as all over Wisconsin. Every city has it. We have lost over 8% down in our occupancy year to date to La Crosse and to Eau Claire. I wonder why. I don't want to lose any business that's going to bring revenue dollars into this city because we're going to charge $2 to park. It's making my job much harder to promote this city as this is the destination. It's much more expensive to get here, to fly in here, than a lot of other places, Milwaukee being one. And we sell it because we are this down home, you don't want to go to Milwaukee, it's this, it's that. Come to Green Bay, see our neighbors, see our places that we go to, and now we're going to charge $2 for parking? It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry, I'm passionate about it like you are. I want the city of Green Bay to, there's got to be a different solution. There's got to be a different way. I don't know what it is either, but there's got to be something different.
Okay, anything else? No? Gentleman in the back, then I'll come back to you.
James from the China Palace at 213 North Washington. I've been down there for 20-something years, and there's not a lot of business there with 20-something years in downtown, you know. Since the parking across the street changed, we lose a lot of customers. And I still have a problem getting the supply, because every time my supplier drop off my stuff in the alley, they tell them to move to a different area, spot to unload the stuff. And that wasn't really make sense, because, you know, you're not gonna haul a block or two to just get my supplies. And my supply is from out of town, like a 4 or 5 hour drive. You know, right now it's just tough for small business to stay in the downtown area because of the parking issue. That's at the $2 and it's every day. You know.
Okay.
Madeline Vasiliev from Haberdasher Limited. Again, you were saying that you didn't see necessarily long-term effects of it maybe driving businesses out, and I can guarantee that parking meters weren't the reason that Lou's Bouterie went out of business, but it was something that factored into it. I can say that safely. There's a lot of other things. It's 2008, the recession hit, and people just didn't value quality. They valued quantity of, you know, products. But when you make a service even more unattainable, whether it's, you know, buying specialized clothing, hosting an event somewhere, getting food from China Palace, it makes it so much harder as a person who wants to come and spend money to come and spend money. Like I said, people don't want to have to pay money to spend money.
Is Lou's Bouterie in Howard?
Yeah, so my parents sold it, they moved out to Howard, and
The new owners moved it out there?
it's unfortunately closed now.
Oh, it is closed?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just curious. Anybody, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Travis Ingalls, 121 South Washington, 125 South Washington, and 129 South Washington, Nines, Kittners, and Stirrups. In the opening statement, he had mentioned that parking was made free on Broadway, and the businesses were much more successful. More people came to that area because of the free parking. I mean, I think you just answered your question. If this should take place, took away the parking fees on Broadway, more people came to Broadway, well, you start making people pay even a simple $2 fee. People are gonna leave. They can go to Broadway, they can go to Stadium District, they can go anywhere else. You know, they need a reason to come down here. And the more fees that are placed on a customer, they're gonna go somewhere else. So, and we've already seen people leave downtown area, they can go any other bar, they can go to any other restaurant, any other shop, park for free. Parking is an issue downtown, it's always been an issue. It's gonna be an increasing issue with the more businesses and other people that are needing to park down here. I think maybe holding a meeting and talking with the businesses to see if there's a way to meet the needs of the parking structure, whether it's maintenance or whatever, before that gets passed on to the customer, I think would be a much better idea than just passing it on to the customer.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Sorry.
No.
So the idea is that this will this will make it more accessible for customers to benefit the businesses that are there because their customers will be able to park. Are there other communities where this has been done, where it's gone from free parking to metered parking, where that has been the outcome?
Offhand, I don't have the answer for you. That's something I'll be happy to follow up with you on.
That'd be great, because if we had some evidence that that was the case and that work did work that way, that'd be great. But I agree with the other business owners that it kind of goes against how I.
Well, what I can tell you is this was not city staff that performed the study, that we're talking about the implementations. This is a nationwide firm who specializes in parking studies,
Okay,
and they were the ones who made the recommendation for the reasons that I've specified.
so it'd be,
They do have their pulse on their finger on the pulse of parking trends and what happens in communities, large and small, across the US.
okay. So it'd be possibly reassuring if we had examples that
Sure.
would document that, that'd be great. My guess is, along with the other business owners, that overall this would be detrimental for Broadway, that the activation energy for the consumer, whether it's for a restaurant or an event center or a retail establishment, is already high enough to leave the Beltline and drive downtown and fight stoplights and traffic, that if we added to that the cost of parking, even though the parking might be a little more plentiful this way, that it's going to really deter people from coming downtown. And I also agree that the district as a whole, whether it's east of the river or west of the river, is viewed more as not just single establishments, but sort of like an outdoor mall, where people will park, they'll mill around, they'll go get dinner, and then they'll do some shopping or a number of things, but it's more of an event that's over an extended period of time rather than running one or two errands to a lot of people. So, but I would certainly welcome any examples of this being successful in other markets.
I'd like to add a little bit, just for clarity. Maybe there was a misunderstanding, and I didn't vocalize it, but the reason, I've been here since 1990, I've been a parking manager. In the mid-90s, well, even when I got here, Broadway was a whole different world when I got here. It was quite depressed, different kinds of businesses, definitely not as even close to as vibrant as it is now. And there were parking meters there. The downtown, we rebuilt Broadway in 98 or so, somewhere around there. We rebuilt it with meters, parking meters. And then after that, the Broadway business district really kicked in and said, we're gonna do something about this. We got the new street, we're gonna revive Broadway. Would you consider city taking out the meters? And we did, and with the understanding that this is not gonna be forever, because the city looks at downtown. Yes, I know there's a Broadway district and then there's a DGBI district. It's a downtown area. Okay, there's an invisible fence in the middle of it called the Fox River, but it's one downtown. And for consistency's sake, it's not a good thing to have to treat one side different than the other, just generally speaking. So we took them out in 2000, September 25th, I think it was. It said in the report here, based on my historic record search. And the intention was when Broadway would revive, meters would be considered to be put back in. The meter posts are still there. There's urban art pieces on some of them. Some of them are empty. And it has come around, and this study was done in 2013 originally. And Desmond and Associates said, you need to put your parking meters back and treat your downtown consistently. That's based on our nationwide, international parking expertise. So that was a recommendation. When we came in 2014, we said, no, we're gonna leave that alone. Let's let the Broadway area continue to build. But now it's 4 years later, and it's, looking back and watching it from the parking perspective, because that's what we do from day to day. If we make the recommendation, or at least from the parking meter perspective, we should put parking meters back in on Broadway. Not talking about the other issues, I'm just talking about meters. So meters weren't taken out to make businesses better, it was as a result of, or in conjunction with, because Broadway, when the meters were taken out, was not vibrant at all, like, say, the Washington Street district is.
Right, it was not the meters coming out that made the change on Broadway. There was some significant investment and a change in Broadway itself this was something that the city did to help contribute towards that. But it was done with an understanding that as that district reestablished itself, this was always on the table to come back. It's come back now.
Okay, any other questions? Who just had asked, oh, that was you, okay.
Yeah.
Any other concerns or anything? No.
Will there be, now that the decision is made to put the meters back in, apparently, will there be a period after which you reassess whether? the
No
meters-
decision has been made. That's one of the things we're talking about today.
Okay. If the meters went back in, would there be a period of time after which it's reassessed whether or not the meters are a good idea?
Oh, we're continuously looking at things throughout our parking system, operations as a whole, yes.
Yes, ma'am, and then you're next.
Okay, just a couple of questions about those meters on Broadway.
Can you state your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jill Munster, Birds of Distinction.
Thank you.
Just a couple questions about those meters on Broadway, although they don't affect me directly. I guess my first question is, there was a statement that was made that kind of blanketed, I guess, our business, that concerned me, because I don't really like to feel like words are put into my mouth. There was a statement made that was said, people on the east side don't really feel that they're being treated the same as your district. Personally, I never said those words, and I don't know of anyone on my side of
Excuse
the
me,
river who said those words.
who stated?
I did,
Oh, you did, okay.
yes.
All right.
And
Go ahead. I was just wondering where that came from.
I don't know of anyone on my side of the river who said those words, and I guess it just concerns me because I don't want there to be any adversarial situation there. So I guess I just wanted to say that for myself, that they didn't come from me, those words didn't come from me, and I'm not asking anyone to raise their hand and say I said that,
Okay,
but,
just 1 second. Did you mention her name, Steve?
no, he did not.
Oh, okay, that's where I was getting at.
No, he
okay.
did not.
Let's just stick to the parking. Personal feelings, please, let's limit
Okay.
that. Just,
So.
thank you.
Secondly, I guess my other concern about it is if the parking meters go back in there, I guess I'm not really sure exactly what you feel that benefit is gonna be. What is your complete reasoning for wanting those meters to go back? When things are going well there, I understand that you're saying that people are parking there. Are there businesses there that are complaining that they don't have parking for their customers?
Yes,
Okay.
Parking meters do encourage turnover, whether we like it or not.
And I understand that,
and
and that's why I explain that to our customers, that that's why we have them. So I do get that, but I was wondering, because it seems that the Broadway businesses are saying that they don't want the meters back, and that's why I'm questioning, if they are complaining that they don't have parking for their customers.
Anything else? No? Ma'am?
Sure,
and
Christine
you,
Hall from
sir,
the
and-
Hyatt and the Convention Center once again. Just curious as to the company that did the survey 5 years ago now. Did they look at cities that were similar to Green Bay? And I only ask that because as an outsider from somebody who hasn't only lived here for 4 years, I find this a very unique city. In that the downtown area is becoming revitalized and everything else. And if the study was done based on a different kind of a city that we have with all the great weekend events, just take the farmer's market, for instance. Most of the people come down to the farmer's market because they don't want to shop at a grocery store and buy expensive vegetables. So now we're going to charge them $2 to park their car. They might as well go to the grocery store at this point. So was the study done in a sense of who we are here as a city, as opposed to just a nationwide survey of small towns? Because we're not a normal small town, in my opinion.
Economics and culture were factored in.
Not only did it consider other municipalities that are similar in composition to Green Bay, there was an extensive community outreach with a variety of different community partners. Local businesses, large businesses, small businesses throughout the downtown, east side of the river, west side of the river, executive
One-on-one.
directors of the business improvement districts, city staff, elected officials. It was a very comprehensive study. Yes, all viewpoints were taken into account.
And my last thing before you move on, Is there, in this plan that we're talking about, other than raising the parking, is there any part of the plan that looks at two different things? One being additional parking in the downtown area, and secondly, the safety of the parking structures in the downtown area?
Yes. One of the items that's identified within the study, it's not part of our implementation, but it's an item that is future items, things to be addressed in the future.
I'll be honest with you, I think if the safety is not looked at the parking structure before you start charging for $2, I don't know that charging for $2 is gonna help anything.
Okay, I'd like to answer,
Sure.
okay? One of the items that was identified is we are going to, and the report is over for, the report, when initiated, 5 years, completed, 4 years old already. They identified that we were going to be operating at a net deficit of parking in the foreseeable 5 to 10 year future. We're already almost 5 years into that, and that did not contemplate some of the large parking patrons who have come to downtown since the implementation of that parking study. When you talk about safety of the structure, not the parking plan, but we did a ramp plan at the same time. Those are separate items. One looks at your parking system, how operationally it works, what supply and demand looks like. The other study is specific to the structures that you park within. And that study, we have been investing between $500,000 and $750,000 in preventative maintenance on our ramps annually for at least the 11 years that I've been with the city of Green Bay. That's what that study did, and that's why anytime that you drive into one of the ramps in the downtown area during the summer, you find areas blocked off and the jackhammers going. That's exactly what we're doing, is that kind of preventative maintenance to continue to extend the life of those ramps. Now, our Main Street facility is the oldest of our 3 ramps at this point. That one dates back to the 70s. What's that?
76.
1976. Okay. I would like to tell you that a structure like that would have a lifespan of 50 years. Okay, and if you do the math real quick, that's 2026, and that one's out of life. Okay? That's not very far around the corner. It's also, that's only 8 years away, and I remember my first day working for the city of Green Bay, October 1 of 2007. That's over 11 years. That's going to go by in the blink of an eye. From the time that you commission the design till the day that you open the structure, you are looking anywhere in the neighborhood of 27 to 36 months. So 3 years out of that remaining 8-year lifespan is going to be spent building the facility. I don't even own property downtown where I can build one. So we are actively looking for our next ramp.
And that was a recommendation in the original report, which
Right.
we're not talking about tonight because it's already been approved. We're just talking about the additional items that we just kind of pushed to the side at the time because it wasn't time yet.
Sir, state your name and address for the record, please.
Bill Schleiss, 119 South Washington Street. Our restaurant there is called Vintage Cantina. Obviously, we sell tacos and we sell margaritas and alcoholic beverages. And the reason I say that is definitely our community is recommending to people not to drink and drive. We encourage people, if they're gonna come out on a weekend, to use that parking ramp and then use Uber to go home, which is the safe way. And I think this is what's recommended by the Tavern Leagues and our new culture that we have, which might be changing quicker than people realize. I don't know if any parking survey considered the drinking laws and how fast our culture is changing by the month. So we encourage people to park in that parking ramp. So any little thing in this downtown, just like everybody has said, we all heard this before, this ain't new. It triggers people. They don't wanna pay a stinking $2, because they can go so many places for free. So I just encourage that you be careful when you start making changes I know it's gonna affect us. And it's gonna affect like the Meyer Theater, which is our golden goose here in downtown Green Bay. Nothing looks better than the Meyer Theater. And we have a lot of patrons, and our guests also use the Meyer Theater. And that's a whole nother culture of people too. And they're not gonna be impressed with having to pay these fees over and above. So just something to consider. I highly recommend not continuously making changes with the parking. I think they've made some wonderful changes that I think the new systems are working great. I just say be careful on making too many changes. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, you had your hand up?
Me?
Yeah.
Lisa from Bosses, 220 Cherry Street. Again, just to repeat a few things someone else said, I think, personally, I'm not involved in the farmer's market, but I think that's one of the things that it's gonna hurt the most. And we need activities downtown on weekends so badly. I mean, that draws people. And it sounds silly to some people to hear that, why wouldn't you pay $2 to park? It's just $2, but it does drive people away. And the reason why, and if you don't understand it, doesn't matter, because it hurts a lot of people. I mean, if you're gonna come to farmer's market, find a place to park, run over there, grab some flowers and a couple of vegetables and run back before the hour is up, you don't have to pay, that's fine. But if you want to keep them down there longer, have them stop in for a cup of coffee or go to some retail stores and try to get them to stay a little longer, it still might sound silly, well, what's the big deal, it's only $2. To a lot of people that, I don't know, it just turns them off for some reason. And it's just a matter of doing it every week and it adds up. It's just a matter of not wanting to do it. So I think you're just hurting a lot of the vendors at farmers market and a lot of the businesses. And it's very quiet on weekends downtown. I'd say you lose probably 90% of the workers that are usually there during the week, they're gone. So the retailers and the restaurants and the coffee shops need people to come down, but I don't know, it's my opinion that the farmers market's gonna take a huge hit because of that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I just have one more thing.
Name, please.
Travis Ingalls.
Thank you.
121 South Washington, 125 and 129 South Washington.
Thank you.
Just to mimic what Philip said, we specialize in serving alcoholic beverages. We encourage our customers as well to use the ramp to park if they're going to be drinking. We buy our patrons, if they seem like they are intoxicated, we will buy them taxis, we will buy them Ubers, we will get them home safe. The last thing that we want is to have one of those patrons be discouraged by a simple $2. So as little as $2 sounds insignificant, it does play a significant role in that decision of should I go downtown or should I go to another place? And then the other question that I had is there any way that the ramp and the Broadway meter situation could be viewed in two separate discussions? To me, it seems like they're two totally different discussions, and I think it would be better separated.
Good. Anybody else? Yes.
Jeff Marcus, downtown Green Bay and Old Main Street, 130 East Walnut Street. I know you've heard a lot and you've got a lot of feedback from a wide number of businesses. And just from what I can gather, the three business types that would be impacted most significantly by this would be special events that come to downtown, retail, and restaurants or hospitality. So those to me kind of seem like the three categories that are going to get stung. And if I could just make a comment on each of those, the events bring the life and bring people to our downtown. I at times think that the city deck and a $80 million office building were the two most significant things that helped to begin to turn around downtown. But the events bring hundreds of thousands of people to downtown. Yes, I'm involved with the farmers market, but events like the Cellcom Green Bay Marathon wants to move its start and finish line to downtown Green Bay. They want this to be the place. And those people that come from all 50 states, they're going to stay in our hotels and eat at our restaurants, and they're going to spend money, and they're going to pay room tax. So events bring life to our city, and that's one of the areas where downtown has won and is doing well. And look at all the fun runs and the color runs and the awareness walks that want to start and end in downtown. So that's one area. On the restaurant side, downtown has some of the best authentic locally owned restaurants in our community. But there are about 168 or more Green Bay restaurants on TripAdvisor. We want our restaurants to stay competitive. We don't want high-end restaurants to just have enough is enough. This will affect the small sandwich shop, but there were a number of other businesses that wanted to be here tonight, and there's construction going on right now at Republic Chop House. They bought the old Lou's Bouderie building that has been vacant in our downtown for the past 12 plus years, maybe 15. And Republic Chop House is expanding. Their confidence in our community is they want to expand their dining room. Patrick Neff, the owner of Republic, is not able to be here tonight, but he said, they pass that, it will definitely impact our business for the negative. Very frustrating. That would really hurt us. So if it's going to affect a small sandwich shop, it's also going to affect a high-end restaurant. The other category is retail. We are competing against the suburbs. And retail, I can list 4 or 5 things that are winning in downtown, and retail is in 5th place. The last retail, and retail, boutique retail in the Broadway district, I don't speak for that district, but in downtown Green Bay, the last retailer that we recruited, that came to downtown with a significant investment in inventory and in space, was the Haberdasher. That was 3 years ago. 5 years ago. So we're trying to recruit and retain businesses in our downtown. I know that there's a cost to the infrastructure of parking, and we realize that. There are other businesses that weren't able to be here that are concerned about these changes. They may sound very small, but they're going to impact businesses. I'd also encourage us to, are we looking at what other communities are doing? Are we being competitive? We do compete against other communities. We do compete against the Titletown District. But even downtown Milwaukee has free parking on Saturdays and Sundays. And Appleton has free parking on Saturdays after 6 p.m. and parking and Sunday free parking. So I hope that we maybe spend a little more time, maybe consider taking a look at having our own city's economic development department take a fresh look at these recommendations and let us have more businesses meet with them and maybe refresh some of the economic impact that this decision would have. I'm concerned that we will have businesses leaving the downtown if the parking burden becomes too heavy. I do know, and Tracy's mentioned this in the area of recruiting conferences to Green Bay, I recruit businesses to our downtown, and we will have a tougher time recruiting businesses to downtown if these rates continue to escalate.
Thanks, Jeff. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I have some clarification questions with the...
Name and address, please.
Oh, sorry. Pam Parrish, 2596 Appian Way. I have some clarification questions with the, I know in the bottom of that 2018 recommendation, there were some numbers of what the main changes were going to be. So really the increased costs with parking and maintenance is the reason that they want to propose these additional costs, is that correct?
That's one of them.
Okay, can you explain the others?
Part of it is also, as it relates back to item number 1 on the agenda, one of the reasons that we were asked to discuss with Pete's Annex LLC about a cost-plus arrangement is to start developing a capital reserve fund, which we do not have in the parking division. Parking, as you may be aware, if you're not, should be aware, Parking is a self-funded enterprise in the city of Green Bay. Well, not everybody knows that, and I think there's a huge misunderstanding. That came out at the meeting we did have with the downtown business owners over 2 years ago already. No tax dollars go to support the parking utility, and as of this year, parking division is 100% off the levy. We are covering all of our debt service. As I mentioned, we are looking at needing to replace a ramp in 5 years' time. That ramp is going to be at least 1,200 stalls in size to accommodate not only the loss of 681 stalls at the Main Street ramp, but increased demand that has popped up over the past 5 years. Not including land acquisition, we are looking at expenditure of over $36 million that we are going to have to put out there to build the new replacement ramp. And right now, I don't have a revenue stream to cover that. And while I do, and I do understand, I used to be a business owner, I get it, okay? I operate this department like a business. I am a $54 million a year business, so I get what it's like. One of the things that business owners in downtown Green Bay do not have to deal with, that business owners outside of the downtown do, is providing parking for their employees and for their patrons, because that's provided by the city. Well, it's not provided, that's not part of your tax dollars. That money has to come from somewhere. And right now, my parking division is on the verge of not being a healthy system any longer. And I need to be able to cover those costs. I can't go to the tax levy, I can't go to the taxpayer for that. It has to come from the patrons who are using that system.
I'm not educated on why the street levy, why parking and stuff can't be a tax for if the bid pays it or if city taxpayers.
It's not part of the city tax. The city levy can't take it, can't support it. There's no way it could possibly be added to the city tax levy. With revenue expenditure restraint and levy limits, the city, we had an allowable levy increase. We are a $108 million a year tax levy, and I think our allowable levy increase this year was about $140,000 on $108 million. Parking alone is a $3.5 million a year enterprise. There's no way we could add that to the tax levy. Tax levy simply can't support it.
Is there a way that we can potentially work on ways to help reduce that cost on parking revenue alone? I know for sure a fact that I've been told by parking staff that revenues have gone up with the new systems and with parking ramp arms being down because people are being held accountable for when they're paying. And then with the app for the parking, people are paying for more. Sometimes they pay for more parking than they're there because I think I'm gonna be there for 2 hours, but I'm only here for a half hour, but I paid for those 2 hours. So is there a way, is there a way that we can work on other solutions rather than just putting it to the consumer right away?
That's already been accounted for in the annual budget. Those types of things you're describing that we're seeing, that's what's holding the parking rates as stable as they are right now.
As just within the last year, as you know, our parks, the revenue, access revenue control equipment, that was $750,000.
I mean,
so those costs need to be covered. That's why rates go up right now, the rates you're seeing.
But I mean, are there ways for conversations to be had with the business community who's saying we don't want this on our consumers because they're not coming? What are other solutions we can have? Is there a possible way to have that rather than putting this on the consumer right away? Because
I'm interested in meeting with business owners at any time.
I think that would be a great thing to start with rather than putting changes. Another question I have, it wasn't very clear in here, what it means for the parking meters. Are parking meters remaining free after 6 p.m. and on weekends? That wasn't addressed.
Parking meters would be enforced through Saturday, consistent with when we have parking enforcement officers in attendance.
So it'd be adding, you have to pay the meter on Saturday, remaining on 6 p.m.
And then after 6 p.m.?
After 6 p.m., no.
Okay, so it's just adding 1 day on.
Right,
Okay.
for the meters.
If it's free at the meter, though.
Jeff, if you want to talk, but the lady has the.
Sorry.
No.
When she's done,
Alright.
I'll address you.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what they were saying, that these new charters really discourage people to come downtown. The business owners know it well themselves. De Pere doesn't have parking meters. Titletown is a new awesome place to be, which go Green Bay, but that's taking away from our downtown businesses. People are gonna choose to park where they don't have to pay rather than paying to park. Even if we love downtown, we know that people will still go elsewhere. I know Jeff mentioned that Appleton and Milwaukee have different rates. I know in this, they were talking about regional competitors, and Green Bay is well on track with the same rates as Appleton and Milwaukee. People are just getting used to the changes that were implemented with the ARMs. I mean, they still are, even with our farmers market. We have so many people that come down that are EBT customers and looking for that cheap quality produce. And now they might not be able to pay those $2 or pay at the meter. It's definitely a detriment to our farmers market that we want people to buy local and support our small businesses. And I will yield.
Anything else? Jeff?
So in the Adams Street parking lot, since it is a app-based lot, correct?
It's app and it's metered because there's pay stations.
Okay,
They're
right.
multi-space
My
meters.
question is that.
But then an app on top of it.
Earlier it was mentioned that the first hour could be free in that facility. So I don't know how you would logistically have the first hour free at a
No,
metered.
first hour, no charge in the ramps.
Okay, so
Do not affect
in
the
Adams
Adams
Street.
And Adams Street lot.
Because I don't know if that would be,
Well,
That's because you're paying at the pay station as
Right.
opposed to paying,
Yeah,
it's a different setup within our parks
Correct.
system.
I'm just curious if logistically that works, that the first hour is free at that system. So, I mean, you're the experts at it.
that's something that
Okay.
we're still looking into.
I just question if that's.
But we had
logistically-
really talked about the ramps, first hour, no charge.
Right. Then the only other thought that I was concerned with is that if there is a period of time where the best parking in a downtown is the metered parking, that is why the rates have been a little higher at the meters than they were in the ramps.
Right.
So if the best parking is on the street, then if we are charging all the time in the ramps, and if there's a period of time like on Sundays that it's free on the street, then every bartender, chef, and waitress and employee at a hotel is gonna park and fill up the spaces on the street in front of the businesses that we want the patrons to park at, because they're not going in a ramp, it's $2, it's free on the street. So I'm concerned that, there may be areas that we have to look at, the best parking is on the street. And if it's free on the street and you pay in the ramp, then everyone who works downtown on a Sunday is gonna park on the street and not in a ramp.
Yeah, and I'll admit,
To some extent is happening right now.
right, and I'll admit, one of the reasons we're talking about the $2 in a ramp for overnight stay on the weekends is because ramps, two of the biggest expenses, well, kind of was on the one, biggest expenses, well, two. There are two. One is electricity, lights. The monthly parkers during the day, okay, there are minimal lighting, but you get daylight harvesting, so we don't have many lights on. They're paying for the lights, which are used by people who park at night, really. And elevators. Elevators are electricity, that's a big ticket expense. And security, we have a security company that we contract with for our security, and it's typically after dark that people are a little bit more apprehensive. I'm not saying that they aren't during the day. People, if you ask anyone on the street, in the parking industry, where would you prefer to park? Can I build you a big giant open parking lot, or do you want to park at a ramp where there's, people just feel maybe someone's working behind every pillar and car. It's human nature, and people are gonna pick parking lot every time, but parking ramps are more expensive. So that was one of the driving factors for, and knowing full well that, yeah, okay, it would be free parking on the street at night, but we're gonna have to charge it for the ramps because that's our big expense. So yeah, it's not a perfect world.
Anything else, Jeff?
Nothing.
Anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to bring to regular order of business by Burnett, second by Johnson. Under discussion, here none, all in favor? Nays,
Aye.
motion carried. We're in regular order of business. What are the wishes of the committee?
questions.
Oh, Alderman Johnson?
Steve, if you could maybe talk a little, I mean, how often are these studies done? It's been almost 5 years since this was done. How frequently do we do these?
About every 15 years to 20 years.
In the 90s, there was one done in 90, 91, 93, and 96, and then there was not
Nothing
anything
since
until this one.
96.
Okay. And then, I mean, I see that a number of the recommendations in the study, action was taken, either approving or not approving.
Right.
Can you maybe give us a little bit of background on why action was taken on those items and why action was delayed on the items that are in front of us today? And if we're to take action on this, is it like a checkbox and we're just gonna put this study to bed then?
No, the ones that were not addressed, that are still hanging out there, the meters on Broadway was because we had a lot of energy moving forward with what's now referred to as the rail yard, at the time was called Larson Green, and we were unsure as to what the impacts of that development were going to play on the Broadway district. There was some discussion at the time of potentially development of a large surface municipally managed, not too different than the Pete's Annex that we just discussed under item 1. We were looking at a similar type of a potentially privately held but municipally managed surface lot over there. We didn't know what kind of impact that was going to have on the Broadway meters, so that's why that was held. As far as the nights and weekends, quite honestly, there was a decision that was reached at the common council that this may be too much, too fast, so we wanted to phase it in.
Okay.
So we put a lot of the other implementation steps in, and this was held off. It's just, it's come back up, and it's something that we wanted to get feedback on.
Okay. So when we look at this from a micro versus macro perspective, and we think about clients, I mean, do we have clients that pay for single users? And what I mean by that is like I'm trying to think of like maybe a Hotel Northland, for example, where maybe they're validating tickets that come through, right? Where they're now paying the $2 fee for every client that comes through, which is different than just a monthly fee. I'm just curious if we have customers like that and if we've had conversations with them.
We do not have something like that. You bring up a good point. Hotel Northland will be our first. But what they are doing is they are running what we call our voucher program. And we set up a bunch of, when you enter the lot, you get a spitter ticket. And then when you exit the ramp, that spitter ticket is used by the parks system to compute what the parking fee is. Then the voucher is in, the mag strip on the voucher simply ties that fee back to a central account and for consolidation for billing purposes. So all that money is going to be charged back to the Hotel Northland, and the Hotel Northland is charging their guests, and they're simply adding it directly to the bill.
Okay. Have we, I mean, is the objective here revenue generation or is it revenue distribution? And the reason I'm asking that question is because, I mean, a few months ago, a recommendation was made before us to pass an increase, and that was approved, and it was said that was satisfactory to maintain our ramps. And I feel like I'm kind of hearing something a little bit different today, saying we don't have enough revenue to pay for our ramps. So I guess I'm trying to understand again if this policy change is intended to create revenue or just distribute it to make it more fair and equal.
It's not any one, there's no one answer. There's a variety. There's multiple answers that go along with that.
Do you expect to see an increase in revenue with
I
this
do
change?
expect to see an increase in revenue.
Do we know what that increase is going to be?
We do not.
Have we made any attempt at projecting that?
I don't think there's a way to project it.
So we don't know how many people are going into the ramps and leaving the ramps?
We don't, with any reasonable certainty, have any idea how long those people are staying, whether they're staying for an hour, whether they're staying for a weekend.
So when people put their ticket in and it says that you owe for 3 hours,
It doesn't say that.
On
After
evenings,
6
it
o'clock
gets
on Friday
charged.
night
Okay.
to 6 a.m. on,
so we'd lose those people, yeah.
And every weeknight between 6 PM and 6 AM the following day, the cost feature on parks shuts down. So there is no idea of lost revenue.
Okay. So when we look at these items here, I mean, these are all very different items, and it was brought up by someone in the audience here that perhaps we ought to take these up individually. I do think that there's some merit in that, and the one item in particular that I'm looking at that hasn't really been discussed here, and admittedly, I don't feel very knowledgeable about making a decision on it, is the parking facility operations and using the division maintenance staff as opposed to contracted security service. Could you maybe provide us an overview of what that is?
That's the security that we hire.
Right, can you give me some I mean, I understand that, but can you give me some background on what, I mean, we're gonna use existing maintenance staff to,
That was a recommendation that was not implemented for good reason.
okay, so I'm looking at it here, though, I mean, this is one of the items we're taking up today, right?
No.
That was something that was
So
taken
just
up
the
before.
recommendations on page 5 of the report.
Under the current 2018 plan,
Oh, okay.
there are only 4 recommendations that we're considering tonight.
All right, my thing's frozen up here again.
Okay. Organization structure.
Now, in the report, I outlined all the recommendations from the original study, but in the summary, there's only the 4 items. Evening, weekend parking.
Right.
That was the $2 overnight ramps, and then the meters on Broadway. All the other items have been addressed and/or are ongoing.
All right, sorry, my thing is just acting up here. So we're looking at the items though in red, are we not?
Yes, there should be.
So I
Parking, okay, under item 3 in the report, parking facility operations.
Only the
Use-
second bullet point.
Use parking division maintenance staff for weekday security instead of contracted security service. Recommendation previously rejected.
Oh, I see, okay. It threw me off because it was
Yeah,
under
so
the
only
main
the
bullet.
second bullet point is red. But I had to make item 3 red because one of the bullet points in item 3 was an item on this agenda.
Okay. I know, Steve, that you had mentioned that you've gotten customers that have indicated, in the Broadway district in particular, that want to see this change. I mean, I talk to these people on a regular basis, and personally, I've heard overwhelming opposition to this change. And to me, it's one of those things, I say let the onus, rest with the businesses themselves. If employees are taking customer stalls, then I think, let the onus rest with them to kind of correct that. I've heard a number of things about the weekends being slower. That's when you want people. And so to me, to kind of create a barrier that makes it more difficult for them to come down, it does create a deterrent for the types of community activities that we're trying to execute. We talk a lot about equity, the equity aspect. I mean, one of the things that I've seen in other municipalities, larger municipalities in particular, but more of a supply-demand system, where they actually, when there's a higher demand for parking, the meters have a way to detect this, and they actually charge more. And so to me, it seems, we're not socialists, so to me, to try to create this equity aspect doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it makes more sense to me that we're not, and I'm not saying we convert to a supply-demand system so much as it is that we recognize that this is an economic development tool for our downtown areas, and to be able to provide access to parking during times when there's less demand for it, and when you're trying to encourage more economic activity in your district, should be the way that we go. Another fear that I have is, particularly in the Broadway area, if we convert everything to meters, there really isn't any other place to go. I think of, when you want to park, for example, around Lambeau Field, if you want to avoid the parking fee there, you can easily go into the residential neighborhoods. People have that outlet. They don't want to pay for parking, they've got an outlet to go. My fear is that we really don't have that in some of our downtown areas, and that this is going to end up pushing, people more into the private lots and creating a bigger headache for us there. You know, and I think a lot of times, and I understand that these guys are experts and they come in and they make recommendations, but it's our responsibility to make local decisions. And I think we have to make decisions that are best for our local community, and sometimes these guys aren't always right? They take these national models and they come in and they try to apply it in a one-size-fit-all, and here's your study and your report, and I don't know, I just think sometimes it is important for us to listen to local decisions. And so, at least from what I've seen or heard, at least some of the businesses I've talked to in my district, it doesn't seem like there's been a great public forum or input. I understand a lot of people came here today, and that's fantastic to share their concerns. But I think, I'd hate for a small few to ruin it for the many. And I think what I'm seeing and hearing from a lot of the businesses in my area are that they really don't want to see this change. And they feel that it will be an impediment to business. And so I don't know that I feel comfortable supporting these changes today without an additional forum or outlet to get that public feedback.
Okay, and I just want to be very clear about something. What I stated about businesses on Broadway was not that they embrace this change. The complaints that I hear from Broadway area businesses is that there is a lack of available, convenient parking in front of their businesses, and they are expecting me to do something to remedy that.
Well, in which case then I would say before we start making changes like this, I would maybe ask the question of what is the long-term parking plan for that district?
Well, I'm clarifying that I did not say Broadway area businesses supported this change. What I did say.
And I didn't say you did. I said you've received feedback from a few, which is not everyone. And so, look, I'm not here to necessarily talk about that, as it is that if we're going to make a change like this, I think we ought to have a long-term plan in place. And I mean, maybe there's one and I'm not aware of it, but I think before we were to take action on this, I would refer it to staff. I think my first preference, honestly, is I would just reject this right now, but if the committee were not on board with that, I would even encourage maybe a referral to staff to create a long-term parking plan for some of these areas that where this is creating a concern.
Question, Steve, is this a long-term parking plan?
Well, we're forever planning on things.
Right.
I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm not gonna lose any sleep either way, okay? I take direction from the Common Council, and I will do the best I can with whatever tools the 12 of you give me.
Right.
Okay?
I know.
What I am going to say is that if you take certain tools out of my toolbox, then I'm going to be very upfront with you and tell you that sometimes what you ask me to accomplish can't be done. And that's the very short answer.
Right. But Alderman Johnson was asking for a plan, correct? A long-term plan?
And maybe this is it, but I don't know that it's
I was wondering,
specified.
is this it?
This is part of it.
Part of it? Okay,
Yes,
so
this-
there is a plan out there.
Well, yeah, and this
Okay.
is,
Well, I just want to
this is not a
clarify that.
be-all, end-all. I mean, we're gonna come back and we're
Right.
gonna complete another parking study as time goes on.
Right.
Once these recommendations have been investigated, either implemented or exhausted,
Okay.
and we see the impact, we will continue
Okay.
to go forward. And, probably 3 or 4 years from now, we will go through another planning process,
Right.
similar to what we did here.
Okay. Anything else,
John?
Burnett, do you?
I really feel for city staff and the plan that the council at that time, I was a member of that council, actually, I remember this, we had this go forward with Desmond and Associates. You have these professional entities, these people who do this for a living, who have much more knowledge than the council does, to create these plans and then implement it through our city staff. And the city staff then does what the advisors or consultants say, what's in the best interest, best practices, whatnot. But the other side of that, though, is the public. The public, we answer to the public in everything that we do. And the public has come forward, and they're not being unreasonable. I mean, I think anything that causes any dip in their business should be something we should really look hard at. And that's the last thing I do. And everyone brought incredible points to the table. So at this point, I respect Alderman Johnson that you say maybe we refer to staff, but I think that by doing so, that could create a lot of uncertainty for the business owners, a lot of, Director Grenier said he won't lose sleep, but I will say, referring to staff could cause a lot of these folks to lose a lot of sleep and creates a very difficult environment for them to conduct business. So if it is possible, and we could change our mind at council, would making a motion to receive and place on file be appropriate?
Second.
Okay, motion to receive and place on file by Burnett, second by Johnson. Under discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll be a nay. Moving forward.
If
Number-
I could you explain what that motion
Okay,
is?
the motion is a recommendation to basically kill the plan. It'll go to the full city council next week, I believe, Tuesday, 7 o'clock. I would advise you to be there. Thank you. Number 3, consideration of possible action on the review and approval of 2019 sanitary district rates.
Okay, included in your packet, we have the proposed 2019 sanitary sewer service charges. Alderman Nicholson, you're the only one who spent considerable amount of time with Improvement Service Committee, so I think it bears just a couple of minutes to go through the sanitary. Last month at the budget hearing, we approved the budget for the sanitary district. The entire city is a single sanitary sewer district. Similarly, the next item we're going to talk about is storm. The entire city comprises a single storm sewer district. The sewer service charges, once we have a budget established for the city, we need to turn the budget into the charge that goes off to those who are paying the rate on their water bill. This is a combination of the Green Bay Metropolitan Sewage District's treatment cost and the city's conveyance charge. So the GBMSD charge is, we get a rather large and complex bill from GBMSD, and as part of their budget hearings, the way that they structure their rate is pretty complex, so it takes one of our folks to spend quite a bit of time keeping up on this. But what we do is we take that bill from the GBMSD and we convert that to what's called a strength and volume charge. So if you look at the top of this proposed service charge, what we show is normal strength for non-monitored customers. So a non-monitored customer would be anything from a residence to a general business. And based on a 5-year average, that flow contains about 250 parts per million of biochemical oxygen demand, 332 pounds of total suspended solids, 6.7 parts per million of phosphorus, and 42.3 parts per million of total cal nitrogen. That's general strength sanitary waste coming from any particular place. Then we take a look at the typical flow coming from a residence, a business, what have you, and how much of that, we convert that flow to a meter size, or, so that's your meter size that you see. And those meters, a 5/8 or a 3/4 inch meter has the allowance of 100 cubic feet of water per month. So that gets charged $15.50. That's your flow. So strength and flow gets combined to figure out how much does a typical resident pay on a monthly or quarterly basis. The next piece we have down on the volume charge, this is what we get billed for treatment from Green Bay Metropolitan Sewage District. Flip to page 2, we know that GBMSD charges us essentially the equivalent of $2.91 per 100 cubic feet. Our city charges about $2.13 per 100 cubic feet. So the total volume charge is $5.04 per cubic feet. Then when we look at monitored users are anybody who has an abnormal strength or flow. So a paper mill would have that. A cheese factory would have that because there's high BOD loading. Those folks actually have a meter installed in their facility, and we monitor that meter on a frequent basis to pull a sample, and that sample is intended to represent the waste discharged over the sampling period. So a lot of that goes into the next page. Okay, well, I guess the next page shows you the sanitary district budget for this year. So sanitary is about $28.7 million. That gets broken down into the city rate for non-monitored and monitored users. We go to page 4, and that shows you the rate history over time, going back to 1979. This year, we are looking at, and then the last page here is a graph that shows you the volume charge alone, not the strength charge. So essentially what we're looking at, for an average residential customer, we are looking on a quarter, the rate going from $113.94 up to $122.42. That's just under about $8.50 per quarter per resident. It shows us 11.75% increase this year, which is consistent with recent trending. The past several years, the bulk of those increases have been due to capital at Green Bay Metropolitan Sewage District. That's a pretty large capital expenses that they've had to take up, and part of what we're seeing in that increase is the new normal due to debt service and capital improvements on their end, and part of it, especially if you take a look this year, city rates on the volume charge have gone up 20, total volume charge at 504 is 36 cents higher than it was last year, or 7.7% increase. Of that 36 cents, 21 cents of it's city-related and only 15 cents is GBMSD. The reason for our increase is we have talked to you quite a bit over the past several years about the CMOM, the Capacity Management Operation and Maintenance Plan that's required of us by the US EPA. There are a number of initiatives that had to be instituted and continue to go on as a result of that CMOM, and I'm very proud of the sewer guys because they've really stepped their game up, and we are a much more active, engaged monitoring and maintenance group than we had been historically, but that obviously comes with a cost. And one of the pieces of equipment that we purchased that's in our equipment this year is a combination vehicle. That combination vehicle is about $750,000. So in order to have good sewers, have reliable sewers that don't back up into people's basements and continue down the line with getting a more efficient and properly managed and operated system, that does come with some cost, and obviously we are doing the very best we can to mitigate and minimize those costs, and that's what you see before you. So again, we've already passed the budget, so that $28 million, almost $29 million that we're talking about, that's already been taken in. What I can tell you is normally we have this discussion after GBMSD has met and passed their budget. They are not passing their budget until next Wednesday. So that's even after council. So this is the most current, most accurate information that we have. What we would request is to pass these sewer rates contingent upon passage of the GBMSD budget as submitted. If that budget changes, we would make the appropriate corrections to the GBMSD pass-through costs for final adoption. We could report that out either way at our meeting in January.
Any questions for Steve? If not, entertain a motion.
I do have a question. No questions.
No, go ahead.
Well, I mean, professional opinion, is there end in sight? I looked at
No.
it's like a hockey stick. It's
It is.
just
I
shooting
don't
over.
expect to see it continue to shoot at the rate that it has, but it will continue to increase over time.
And then as far as staffing goes, regular salaries, I see kind of jumped. Is that one individual making more? Are they adding positions?
We added 2 positions for, one is a fat oil grease inspector to try and get a handle on that, because that's where the bulk of our backups are coming from. And, God, I can't remember what the other person was.
Stormwater?
No,
That's on the stormwater side.
There was a fog inspector, and we added somebody else, but both of them are.
Grease like cooking grease?
Yes.
And it cakes up the.
Yeah, I know.
lines and- yeah.
Is it all coming from Imperial Lane?
Actually, no.
Really?
I can tell you
There
where,
are numerous places around the city.
of all the goofy things I had to go to, I had to respond to a
By
call in
Sitka?
March. Maid and Elizabeth, we had a massive backup going on there on Friday night. And we opened the manhole right in front of the riverside, and it looked like, remember when you were a kid and they had those Play-Doh things that you'd stick to, and it would come shooting out? It looked like a Play-Doh log, 21 inches in diameter, and it would come out 2-3 feet, and then it would fall into the bottom of the manhole, and it was stacked up 9 feet deep in the manhole. There was an oopsie, there was a tank at Schreiber where the level sensor malfunctioned, and the operator was assured the tank was empty, and it wasn't. So they put it into a cleaning phase, which involves hot water and steam, which emulsified the cheese mixture that was in the vat, and then they flushed the cleaning water. When it hit the cold sewer, it congealed in the cheese in the line, and we had a nightmare going on out there. We were out there for 7 hours cleaning a 21-inch diameter cheese log out of about 400 feet of line.
Okay. Okay, entertain a motion. Thanks, Steve.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Burnett, second by Johnson. Under discussion here, none. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. For consideration possible action on the review and the approval of 2019 stormwater utility rates.
Okay,
Director.
similarly to what we just discussed on sanitary, the stormwater utility budget, this was passed as part of our budget hearing last month, or earlier this month. And the short answer is, we take the budget divided by the number of equivalent runoff units across the city, and that comes out to your ERU charge. We are constantly reviewing the number of ERUs that are across the city based on, sometimes we get petitions for review where folks think that there are too many ERUs assigned to the property, and we'll make adjustments if those are necessary. As there's development and redevelopment, area that previously was green is now paved over, we have to make those, so the number of ERUs changes on an annual basis. The funds that are generated by this ERU charge go to the operating budget as we provided to you. You'll note that near the bottom of the budget, we indicate that there is a transfer out for debt service. That debt service is paying for loans on stormwater and storm sewer projects that we've made. Transfer out to capital projects, that's direct payment. Wherever we can, we try to pay rather than borrow money. Then you'll see transfer out to general fund in the amount of $470,000. That's money that the stormwater system, the storm utility, actually pays into the general fund to offset wages, benefits, and equipment for leaf collection and spring yard waste collection. It's a benefit to the storm sewer system that's under orders from the EPA as well. It's called our MS4 permit. To reduce pollutants from entering our waterways, specifically total suspended solids and total phosphorus. So by picking those leaves up or the yard waste up on the curbside, we're stopping that material from getting into the waterways. So the stormwater utility is helping to pay some of those wages and benefits and equipment charges associated with yard waste and leaf collection. So the money, again, is being put to good use, and again, we do keep a pretty close eye on this and try to minimize the amount of expenditure, similar to what we do on levy-supported. We are looking at going to $92.12 per year, which comes out to $7.68 per ERU per month. Last year, 2018, we were at $6.91, so it does look like a pretty steep increase. If you go back and take a look at 2011 through 2016, we were pretty stagnant, I mean dead flat for 5 years. As we have ramped up some of our programs, cost is increasing. The other side of this is we are getting much more aggressive as far as infrastructure. So the projects we are doing to alleviate flooding, as far as lift stations, larger pipe sizes, are getting into some rather expensive. The lift stations we're knocking on the door at $2 million per for a lift station. then some of the stormwater projects that we're implementing, all of that low-hanging fruit that we did back in 2011 through 2016 is gone. So once we start putting stormwater projects together to minimize flooding and increase our pollutant removals, just a land acquisition, you know, we're looking, sometimes we're paying up to $2 million just to buy the piece of property, and we haven't started construction on the pond. So as the projects keep going over time, they get much more expensive because land values are going up as
Okay.
well.
Entertain a motion? Motion to approve by Burnett, second by Johnson. Under discussion here, none, all in favor? Nays, motion carried. 5, consideration possible action on request by DPW for single source purchase of storm water pumps and equipment for storm water basin, 110 lift station from
Xylem.
Xylem in the amount of $557,720. Director Grenier.
This is one of the storm sewer lift stations that I just alluded to. 110 is in the South Broadway area near the shipyard. We need to upsize the lift station down there, and there are a number of different people who supply these large capacity, large diameter, they're very specialized pumps. So there's only a few manufacturers of them in the United States, but there are some. And we have a long demonstrated history working with a number of these different companies, Xylem, Flight, so on and so forth. Best value for the dollar that's out there right now is Xylem. The other benefit to that is we have established relationships with their approved service vendors, and our staff is familiar with these pieces of equipment, so routine matters, we have the expertise in-house. We've actually been trained by their reps on how to do anything that can be done locally. Now, when we have to rebuild a motor or an impeller is shot, that we have to ship out. But our familiarity with the Xylem equipment helps keep our operating and maintenance costs in check on them. So what we are requesting is approval to purchase the stormwater pumps and associated equipment to upsize that lift station for Storm Basin 110 as a single source from Xylem in the amount that's identified.
Any questions or concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Motion
Second.
moved by Burnett to approve, second by Johnson. Under discussion. Here none, all in favor? Nays, motion carried. Consideration of possible action on the Department of Public Works for single source purchase of storm water pumps and equipment for stormwater basin, 106 lift station from Xylem in the amount of $393,500. Director Grenier.
Same discussion as item number 5. This is simply for Basin 106 as opposed to 110.
Where's 106, Steve?
106 is north of 110. It's still on the Broadway corridor, but it's more up near Howard and Pearl.
Steve, who determines where, this area gets the attention and
That came out of the
others?
study that we performed a couple of years ago
Okay.
that's currently being updated.
Okay,
Yep.
So
It's
what
currently
about
being
like
updated.
Schwartz and Mason Street?
Right.
Where did that fall in the study?
Back when the study was originally performed, a lot of what's going on there is surface or backwater flooding. This is actually flooding that's occurring down within the pipes and causing backups. This is all associated with the old slough that used to run up to, all the way up to where West High School was constructed.
All right. Okay, any questions or concerns? Entertain a motion by Burnett, second by A. Johnson. Under discussion, here none, all in favor? Nays, motion carried. 7, consideration of possible action report by purchasing manager. I don't know, how do you want to handle this, Rick?
I think
One at a time.
we should take them one at a time.
Okay.
I can join.
A, request approval of award to purchase a trailer mounted generator to Walter Power Systems, $31,494. Rick?
We issued an RFQ with specifications. We got 4 responses, and Walter Power Systems was the lowest. They are also responsive and responsible at $31,494. The quote summary is attached.
No, questions or concerns? Motion to approve by Burnett, second by Johnson. Under discussion, here none, all in favor? Nays, motion carried. B, discussion, possible action on award of a contract for a parking citation management system and ticket writing equipment to Passport Labs Incorporated. Rick?
This is a system to replace an existing system. We issued an RFP, and the results of the RFP are what I handed out because the RFP wasn't opened until before I issued the agenda. So we received 2 responses. The department staff actually interviewed 4 vendors. So they pre-qualified and 2 vendors made the short list. And so we had those 2 vendors submit a formal RFP. And based on the criteria that we had laid out, Passport, which is the least expensive, also scored more points, and therefore the recommendation is to award the contract to Passport for a 10-year total cost of ownership of $442,016.
Okay, question or concerns? If not, motion to approve by Burnett, second by Johnson.
Just one comment.
Yep, under discussion, Alderman Johnson.
I don't know if the Passport app, I've noticed, it still gives me a lot of trouble. I don't know if you found this to be a problem with others where it consistently crashes and won't work and I have to uninstall it and reinstall it. I mean, it happens to me all the time. So I hope it's not just me, and I'm just bringing it up if you've heard that feedback from anyone else.
We've had a couple like that, but not an overwhelming issue, and I don't know if it's hardware, phones, the type of phone, age, I don't know.
I think I mean, I'm happy to support this, but I think it's a concern that should at least be brought to them to say, why is this happening?
Yeah, and that Passport app is a different, it's a whole different module or something.
Understood.
Yeah,
Okay.
they don't interact
Okay.
on this particular one.
If I could
But
add
yeah,
on-
we'll
if I
bring
can
that
add
up.
on that, if you have an iPhone, I had the same problem happen to me a couple times. Close out the apps, clears out the memory, go back into the app and it works.
Okay, entertain a motion.
We're gonna do this after.
Motion by Burnett, second by Johnson to accept or approve. Under discussion here, none, or we are under discussion. All in favor? Ayes, motion carried. All right, where are we? C, request approval to award the contract for hauling stockpiled street sweepings to Peters Concrete for $55,097. Rick?
When we run the
Oh.
street sweepers around the city,
Right.
all the material that's collected in the body has to be managed as solid waste. So we can't just take and dump it anywhere. So what we do is we consolidate that at our west side yard waste facility, keep it segregated. When we get a big enough pile to do something with,
Right.
it has to be hauled away.
Motion by
Second.
by Burnett, second by Johnson, under discussion here, none, all in favor, nays, motion carried. Request approval to award a 3-year contract parking security services to Securitas Security Service USA for $319,117 plus 3 one-year renewal options by mutual consent. Who wants this?
Same
Rick?
thing, it was an RFP that was issued to qualified vendors, and Securitas, which is not the least expensive, still scored the highest. They have some features that the parking utility believes will save them a lot of time, that are very valuable in terms of their reporting.
Or in tracking. And also the locality of their home office and interaction if there are problems, because we want to make sure we have coverage too. I mean, security is a very important thing. We heard it tonight from the gallery.
So the department is recommending making the award to Securitas for 3 years for $319,117 with 3-year extensions, options.
Need a motion? Motion by Burnett, second by Johnson, our discussion here, none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Request approval to purchase a 2018 Vector Jet vacuum body and Western Star truck chassis from Bruce Municipal for $428,269 even.
Okay,
Rick?
we brought forth this purchase back in the beginning of 2018, and that award was approved. Bruce, we actually bought a second unit in August, I believe, because the vendor had won the first bid and had agreed to hold the price on a second unit. Steve now has found money to purchase a third unit, and we're getting this unit at, again, the 2018 January pricing.
Okay.
And if we don't take advantage of it now, costs are likely to go up 6% after the first of the year, 6 to 10% due to the tariffs.
Okay. Is there any questions or concerns? If not, entertain a motion. By Burnett, second by Johnson. Our discussion here, none, all in favor? Nays, motion carried. We are at F. Frank.
Yes, sir.
Discussion and possible action on an award contract to rebuild the Cummins engine of motor grader unit number 852 to Cummins Sales and Service for $25,583. Rick?
Obviously, we have an engine that's failed on an important piece of equipment. I did attach Nathan Walkentonk, the fleet manager's recommendation, which he sent to Steve and Chris and the folks. It makes fiscally responsible sense to have this work done by Cummins Motors. They're the authorized Cummins dealer for this neck of the woods. They've already got the vehicle, they've already invested in diagnostics and disassembled and then they provided about an 8-page quote detailing all of the work that they'll do. And the staff is supporting making this award based on that analysis.
Motion by Burnett, second by Johnson. Our discussion here, none, all in favor. Nays, motion carried. Consideration possible action on review to award the following contracts. You want these together?
Actually, what I would like to take them separately.
Okay. A Ray Nitschke Memorial Bridge hydraulic repairs, Director Grenier.
I would ask that you hold this. We had to issue an addendum delaying the bid opening.
Yep.
So what I will do is I will bring you next Tuesday at Common Council.
Okay. Motion to hold until Tuesday?
Yeah, one of you guys can pull the
Okay.
item and we can take it up.
Who
at
wants
council.
it? Motion to hold by Burnett, second by Johnson. Our discussion here, none, all in favor. Nays, motion carried. Did you want to say something?
No. No. I was just gonna ask you
Hey.
for a date or something.
Give them a call tomorrow or after. Raising buildings for Webster Avenue Reconstruction Group Number 3.
Unfortunately, I was on vacation last week when we put the agenda together. You've already given me the authority to award these contracts associated with the Webster Avenue.
Well,
So
it still needs
that we
approval.
can, well, that we could, that's not
Right.
gonna open until tomorrow. So if you just wanna, consistent with past practice, give the director the authority to
Okay.
award that.
Who wants that?
So moved.
So moved by Burnett, second by Johnson. Discussion here, none, all in favor. Nays, motion carried. That Steve has the authority for raising buildings for Webster Avenue Reconstruction Group Number 3. 9, consideration of possible action on request to approve the plat of a right-of-way for Erie Road and Patty Wood Lane to South City limits. Director Grenier?
We did a project from
Nice
East
work.
Mason Street south to accommodate the Nature's Way project last year out in the I-43 Industrial Park. We're gonna continue that project next year down to the South City limits. What this action does is approves the right-of-way width, so we can go
Right.
out and acquire that right-of-way.
Any questions or concerns?
Approved.
Motion approved by Johnson, second by Burnett. Under discussion, here none, all in favor. Nays, motion carried. 10, possible action on request by Wisconsin Public Service Corporation for an electric and gas easement across city-owned parcel 1-1841-A Adam, Lambeau Field. Director Grenier?
There is a need for upgraded electrical and gas services around the west side of Lambeau Field. There's no room within the municipal right-of-way to accomplish that, so they're asking for a 12-foot wide easement on the Lombardi Avenue side and a 25-foot wide easement off of the back, or immediately adjacent to the right-of-way on the Ridge Road side. Staff is in support of this and recommends granting the easement.
Questions or concern?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Burnett, second by Johnson. Under discussion, here none, all in favor.
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Informational. Next improvement service meeting, I gotta get a hold of Chris Weary and see what's going on. Talk to him, just like I called Mr. Johnson, Mr. Burnett. Everybody was on board with today. So I'll call everybody and I'll call you, Steve.
Absolutely.
I think we have time.
That would be what's on the schedule already for
Right.
the next regular
Yeah.
schedule.
I'll just confirm it.
Yep.
By talking to everybody and see what's going on. Director's report?
Director's
You
report
don't
is
have
very, very
anything, do
brief.
you?
We have completed leaf collection. We are done.
Question, now, the complaint I have, can you find those people? Or bill them?
We are working towards that, something we're gonna be talking about over the winter, about putting together a very aggressive,
We have
public-
nothing right now?
It's a little sketchy, and I wanna firm that up.
Then I'll get my leaves out now then.
So,
I mean-
what I wanna do is I wanna make it ironclad, so when we issue a citation, it can't possibly get thrown out in community court.
Okay.
You know, when you have that small inch of snow that fell, people just stop, because I had a ton of leaves, that's probably
I
just,
quit
I
raking
just
till I
stopped
still
because I
have them in my
imagine.
I let mine up. No, I'm just kidding.
So,
Does that kind of threw everything off a little bit?
not really.
Okay.
It's, this happens every year. We gotta go through it. Equipment has been transitioned over to winter operations.
We're ready?
So we are ready to go. We've actually conducted 2 citywide anti-icing operations already this year.
Wow, that's nice. Any questions or concerns with the
Motion to
director?
receive and place on
Motion to
file.
receive, place on file by Burnett, second by Johnson, under discussion here, none, all in favor. Nays, motion carried. Do we have any public hearings, Steve?
We do not.
Entertain a motion to adjourn by Burnett, second by Johnson. Aye. Under discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Johnson's an aye, no nays, so
Very good.
have a good